approaching the end of a busy week. I promise to be very brief, but before approaching any substantive comment, would you like to share my congratulations to the whole Cpdp team for this another triumphant event? Paul, this year over 1,000 participants, I guess, multiple stakeholders. You had a need for a big second venue. And we are now running for 5 days, including the Privacy Saloon event tomorrow for the, let's say, true diehards. So the range and depth of panels here present an embarrassment of riches. And now with many of the sessions being filmed, you can also watch them after the conference at your leisure. So perhaps, Paul, I'm not wrong that at this rate of expansion, I may need to put you in contact with the managing director of the National King Baudouin Stadium for next year edition. This is the GDPR year. How I can escape from a few considerations on that. A big year lies ahead, probably the biggest year ever for the EU data protection. And of course, we are going to celebrate the GDPR day at midnight of in between 24th and 25th of May. We all know that it will be a great achievement for first independent data protection authorities who for years have called for updated rules, but also for civil society organizations who have campaigned for it, and finally for the EU legislators. They had the courage to stick to the principles and value of the Charter. You may say that it is even an achievement for the lobbyists who I'm sure helped improve the text in many ways with the 3,999 amendments. We still don't know why the 40,000 amendment has not been tabled, but we'll see in the future. On May 25th, the European Data Protection Board will start its activities, and therefore all our attention would be on the effectiveness of the one-stop shop and the consistency mechanism, since together with other sister authorities, we seek to cooperate closely while respecting each authority's independence. But what about next steps now? We're not simply here to celebrate the beauty of the reform, while some pieces of action are still missing. The legislation for EU institutions and bodies, the privacy regulation. What about next steps? The internet has been with us for only a couple of decades. It has evolved in a weird and wonderful ways, but also in few cases in very bad ways. Connecting people should not mean following them around and recording their movements, words, actions, and thoughts for eternity. Convenience and making life's core quicker or easier should not make people less safe or less free. So at least as important this year is the work to adopt the e-privacy, adopt the GDPR and adopt the e-privacy regulation. Constant monitoring of behavior is not the only business model for digital products and services. We go back to the session of yesterday on privacy by design and privacy by default, nor is it the desirable, nor it should be the most profitable. The e-privacy regulation is the law which will do more than anything else to persuade companies and investors that there is a better way to connect people and services. So let us make this year, 2018, the year where Europe can say better enough, no more covert, opaque, and ubiquitous surveillance of people in the digital environment. Let us make 2018 the year where the EU finally adopt rules, obligations, and rights, where EU institutions, bodies, offices, and agencies process personal information in a way consistent with the GDPR. It is ultimately a question of integrity, and we claim to lead by example in Europe. So therefore, we need to ensure that all EU bodies, including first those dealing with the most sensitive and complex issues like Europol, applying consistent and reliable standards. We really appreciated the efforts by the European Parliament to introduce the principle one law for all, to be applied in particular to administrative data. We know that some specific, limited, reasonable adjustments are to be identified for Europol, Eurojust, and EPPO, while at the same time we are available to allow the legislators to find a suitable solution consistent with the GDPR and the Charter as soon as possible in the next few weeks to allow the EU bubble to fully comply with the new principles. But 2018 is also important for another reason. Don't forget, this year will be 5 years after the Snowden revelations. And we may have made great progress on data protection. But on surveillance is a little bit different story. So we have something within the Privacy Shield Annex, but you may also conclude that the Privacy Shield is a sticking plaster. What we need, in my view, is for the European Council, not the Council of the EU, I'm referring to the Summit of the Heads of States and Governments, to make good on its commitments. You may find in its conclusion published in October 2013 and June 2014 to find a more sustainable approach to intelligence sharing with strategic partners. This commitment was separate from those related to GDPR. On GDPR, we have a deal. About surveillance, we are still waiting for additional steps. What about global trends in general terms? Apparently, last year was the moment over 50% of the world's population became connected to the internet. And meanwhile, another 10 or so countries around the world adopted new privacy laws last year. According to Professor Graham Greenleaf, now the total according for such question is 121 countries. But this extraordinary growth is uneven. There are huge numbers being left behind. Women tend globally to have less access to the internet. And that means poor urban communities suffer in particular. Our children are being surveyed like never before. Let me refer to an example concerning the schools in California where, for lack of public funding, they have chosen to allow their pupils to be monitored carefully in exchange for private capitals. And then there are massive data protection deserts around the world. Imagine a gigantic arc from southern Africa through Central Asia and China, where there are no formal privacy protections, or at least no independent regulator protecting individuals from the risks of digitalization. So in too many parts of the world, data protection is still treated as a proxy for national security. And we in this room have a lot of work to do. Everybody in the world deserves to be better respected, not only those who can afford to pay for the privilege. Then I go back to, let's say, the community of data protection regulators, in particular to the work of the International Conference of Privacy and Data Protection Regulators in the world. Later this year, from October 22 to October 25th, we will host in Brussels the 40th edition of the International Conference. And I'm sure you might think that the biggest sporting occasion this year will be the World Cup. But let me partly disagree, and not because Italy is not in, but just because we this year, for those not familiar with this annual jamboree, the so-called Olympic Games for Privacy are really interesting. They are coming to Brussels for the first time. What we can promise at the EDPS, together with my good colleague from Bulgaria, relate to unmissable events. Mental acrobatics, legal marathons, not to mention the corporate lobby steeplechase. So I promise this is going to be an event unlike any other. We will have around 786 microphones in the hemicycle of the European Parliament here in Brussels, and therefore we will have a lot of space for debate. We are planning something different compared to previous editions, much less parallel sessions, or perhaps no parallel session, but a lot of, let's say, contributions from different view angles. We are really ambitious. We would like to keep you involved in a big, spectacular conversation about digital ethics in the age of artificial intelligence, in the age of Internet of everything. And of course, in our closest session, privacy commissioners will be asked to take a position, perhaps a decision, on the future of this conference. The challenge is on how we can be, as DPAs, independent bodies in the world, more inclusive to global partner authorities while preserving the integrity of this community of independent regulators. So again, the 2018 is likely to be a big year. So you should count on us DPAs to be focused and single-minded, like a squad of human rights obsessed José Mourinho's. So what else? Paul, where is Paul? Thank you very much. And chapeau for this edition. And once again, see you at the Olympic Games on Privacy in October.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm all into details, and Giovanni has been hiding out in this corner when others took the floor, and with a simplicity and a matter of doing that I truly appreciated. The Brussels data protection community doesn't share the same interest, that is clear. That's what makes us interesting, but we share generosity and I think more than that. And so this conference, it was not able without that generosity. It has nothing to do only with materialistic things, but with the spiritual things. And I think that the Brussels community that now will have a heavy October week and has demonstrated its capacity to work together. So there's, and I'm quite proud of being a small part of that. And I'm very proud of all those that come from very far and that make this possible, because without recognition of others, this Brussels community would only talk to itself, and that is the last that we want. So we, every year around World Privacy Day, which is the 28th stage conference next year, we have pushed it to the end of January. The dates are in the conference folder. We take a theme that is very broad. This time it was the theme of the bodies that comes back in some of the panels. But of course, we map ongoing policy agendas, ongoing controversies, ongoing societal issues. And I always ask, no, I never ask. I suggest that we also reflect about themes that aren't so visible in these panels. And I think the theme of the disconnected, the injustice, the privacy of the poor, the lack of connection to the internet of some, these are beautiful things that always take me, that always capture me and make me a little bit more modest about my own points of interest. And I thank Giovanni for always bringing these sensitive issues to the forefront at the closing remarks. So it is a conference that is made possible with all kinds of support, financial, other support. I'm very thankful as every year for those who have supported us and keep on supporting us. It is a simple thing. There were tweets about the espresso bars in the 2 venues that wouldn't just go outside, buy 1 coffee, and do that times 3,000 or something, and then you will have an idea about how complicated these things are to serve you the right coffee, to serve your normal coffee, excellent coffee, espresso, or no coffee. So we're into that, and all these people are into these things and other things, and I'm very thankful for all of them, content-wise, resources-wise. This is a very big initiative, and it's shared by many. There is an academic backbone. All these academics here know they're just one stakeholder. This is a good lesson for academics because they tend to think they're very important, but they are important just like the other stakeholders. So equality reigns, but it's the academics that safeguard the balances that we do all the time to make this a multi-stakeholder conference in the true sense of the term. So those who feel we do not do injustice to the ideal of a multi-stakeholder conference, come forward. We want to learn, we want to do better next year. It's our ambition. Now, for the academics, there's this conference tomorrow. I will come back to that, but that's not. So these are the 3 responsible people. It is me, Rosamunde, and Dara. We're just end responsible, and if something is wrong, it's us. And it's especially this guy that is smiling to you with the red shirt. But then there is a program committee. We did a 5-track concept this time, 5 parallel tracks, hoping that you would go on YouTube for the rest of your life this year to catch up. And we are assessing this. Does it work? What are we winning? What are we losing? We like to stage so many interesting voices, but what about community? Is this a good idea? Are we losing in terms of... We do these assessments. We're interested in your feedback, and next year we might amend or not, and that is then the golden question. But this is the programming committee, Imge, Lorenzo, Diana, in addition to the 3 others. They're at the, together with Ronald, Dennis, Malavika, Omer. These people have spent a lot of time with us together, and that is, and I'm going to say thanks at the end, but it's important. And then it goes further, because also these people have spent much time with us. And Youngshin, Lina, Irene, Julia, Gian Claudio, Deepan, Barry. I know these names very well because we have weekly Skypes, and it starts again with a small break very soon to prepare the next edition. That's how we do this. Then behind the people programming, there are people making it possible, and there is all these side events, the art shows, the contacts with so many people, Rosamunde, Irina, Karin for the Lore, and then there is, of course, our friends who do the logistics. Els and Lawrence are the most important people. Not these ones, because they're... But I would say these are the people that have had hard times in getting this done. So I would beg for a round of applause for all these people. Yeah, thank you all. Yeah. And then there are the students, and there are so many other people. These are the scientifics that have helped us. I like them too. I don't think they need an applause. I think they need a long life to remain active with us. I would miss them if they didn't get that long life. But that same goes for you. Let's all go for a very long life. And then those who really like academics, come to me, we need to talk. What kind of branch are they? They're a very special branch. And some academics from the start had a problem with Cpdp. Where are the keynotes? Why can't I say how important as a professor I am? So we had to teach the academics to fit in and to drop the academic ritual. That has taken some exercise, but they did well. They're the flexible people, but tomorrow there's the revenge. There is an academic conference. There are 200 diehards of those people. They're going to study each other's papers the whole night, starting now. the audience is not allowed if they haven't prepared and read the papers. And if you want to see how that works, come to us tomorrow. It's still some empty spaces, but you will have to do a lot of reading. And I like it because Cpdp is up-tempo. If you don't do well in 8 minutes, you fail. And I fail as a moderator. PLSC is slow, and we need, I think, both. So I would like to say something nice to all those academics. Thanks for having listened to 11 years of up-tempo bebop at Cpdp, and tomorrow you will have your payback. It's going to be slow. We play Bill Evans or worse, Vivaldi or something, but we will go through the papers, so that is important. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. There's a cocktail. Thank you for being there.